Okay, so in this video, we're going to be looking at how this demand curve shifts. So what causes the changes, what causes the shifts in the demand curve. First, we have to understand a very important principle, and that is Ceteris Paribus. Yes, I'm teaching you Latin. So Ceteris Paribus is a Latin word, and it means all other things held constant. You have to remember that. All other things held constant means nothing is changing. So when you're looking at the demand schedule, it's always taking into consideration. It's only accurate if there's nothing else to consider. Nothing. But we know that's not the universe. So, for instance, if there's a hurricane moving into Boston, the demand for a bread and toilet paper, or, well, a pandemic, it's definitely going to increase. And especially take big pizzas. When you know that there's news of a lockdown happening, a demand is going to just increase for everything, regardless of how much it costs. Or hand sanitizer. That this is how it works. There's always something that's going to impact the demand. So it causes the curve to shift. And that is what we're going to talk about. So little things that cause the curve to shift. First, you have the idea of the income levels we talked about in the last video, where when things cost a lot more, there's basically kind of a separation of goods that are reacted differently. First of all, normal goods. Normal goods are basically things you're going to buy if you have the money to buy them. So normal good prices might kind of shift to so we have our normal graph, and it could shift to the left. And we know that shifting to the left is a decrease, remember? So if you don't have the money, you don't buy it. It becomes too expensive, and the poverty level, and people's incomes are going not as far. They're going to buy less normal goods. And that's like, name brands can be considered normal goods, movie theaters, things that are usually what we would consider luxury. Basically, I'm not in for spelling. Inferior goods are basically the stuff that nobody wants, but everybody buys because they're poor. Now, that's a really simplistic explanation of it. It's usually the lesser desire of the product. So, for instance, if you're going to go for Oreos has become a name brand, but did you know that they were actually an off-brand and they just basically became more popular? Or you could go for the store brand, would be an inferior. A normal good could be Bounty paper towels. An inferior good would be Walmart's Great for Less. Definitely the definition of a luxury versus an inferior. So you can cause shifts by that. Consumer expectations can change. So if the current demand for a good, it's basically going to be that if there's an expectation of a product either going out of stock or going out of fashion, or the trend is changing, or specifically the price is going to change, then your current demand can change. So let's say you have the demand for, pens. But you know that your favorite pen there's news that it will no longer be sold in stores. So the demand for that pen right now is going to go up. Because now you're willing to spend a little bit more on the price of that pen because you won't be able to find it later. So let's say that now there is news, the pens are going to go on sale. So then what's going to happen is right now, your RN, that demand for the pens are going to go down because, you want it cheaper. So if you know what's going on sale later, you're going to buy it later. But in the flip turn, if it's going to be, the price is going up, you buy it more because you want to buy it when it's cheapest. It's definitely consumer expectations is important to look into. Then you have population changes. Population changes can definitely cause the demand of something to change within a certain area or within a certain time frame. So let's think about this. Population changes. So you got the 1940s. The boomers happen. This whole population of babies. Well, diapers. So you have diapers now come in a huge demand. So you have that demand for diapers, boom, increase. So then you go a few years later, 1950s, elementary schools. That demand for more elementary schools, boom, goes up. And then let's get these boomers to go a little bit older, 1970s. Well, again with the pen. Okay, again with the pen. That's supposed to be 70s. I don't know what's going on. And let's say college. The demand for college and the college education, boom, skyrockets. So now everybody wants to get a college education in the 1970s. And now we have in our lovely 2020s And the boomers are now all looking for, I don't know, what are they looking for now? Walkers? Don't come at me, boomers. So now that demand for walkers, boom! That's why we call them the boomers. No, that's not why we call them boomers. But as these generation kind of huge influxes in, births, death rates, things like that, you definitely see these demand changes happen as they progress through their life cycles and life changes. So Generation Z is going to have their own thing that they're going to cause to shift as they grow older. But population changes with death rates and birth rates definitely cause shifts in demand. Demographic changes is kind of similar to population changes, but more specific, can be demographics that focus on certain outlets. So for instance, defining demographics, that has to go with statistics. And these advertisers and business people will do demographic studies all the time. Like, who exactly is following their product? Who is going to demand it? Where are they? Where do they come from? You take into consideration race, age, gender, occupations, income. So they are going to be able to use this data to identify potential customers. How are these changes happening, and is it going to shift the demand of a certain product? It can influence packaging, and it can influence advertisements. Consumer testing and advertising, just for the same reason. They want to influence fads, they want to influence trends, and they want to influence how do they reach the customers. So when you have a huge fad that's basically like, I don't know, huge dad shoes, well, you get to the right demographic and you angle it right, your demand is going to increase. Whereas Crocs, I don't know what happened to Crocs, guys. Crocs were failing. Crocs were going out of business. And I've talked about this with a few of you. But now, someone wore them somewhere. Boom. I said boom a lot in this video, didn't I? Something like that. Someone wearing it, someone exhibiting a product can cause these fads and trends to occur. And then, of course, when they're over, we know that it's going to have a negative impact. So these things are going to change it. And there's more that changes it. Price of related goods. So this goes back to that idea of substitutes and complements. So a complement is something that is usually used together. I'm so great at lines and circles. So we have ski boots and skis. And you know that fries just go so much better with ketchup. I think I spelled ketchup right. I don't know. This video is just riddled with spelling errors. You also have hamburgers and buns. I mean, if you're going to buy hamburger patties or hamburger meat, you need to buy buns, right? Fries go with hamburgers. You have also hot dogs and buns. Basically, if they're good that are usually consumed together, well, then if the price of one goes up, then not only is the demand for that product going to decrease because of the basic law of demand, but then you're going to have a side effect happening with the complement good that is also going to decrease the demand of it. Okay. So with the substitutes, you have the same thing. So usually the things that are bought in place of one another. So in this instance of complements, also then the price of related goods. So we talked about substitutes in one of the previous videos. So first let's talk about complements, the two things that are purchased together. So we know a lot of things that we consume at the same time, like hamburgers and fries, or fries and ketchup, or hamburgers and hamburger buns, or hot dogs and hot dog buns. So these two things that are always used together complement. So here you have, let's take for instance, hot dogs. I mean, why not, right? You have this whole demand curve for a hot dog. Now, if the price increases along the curve of hot dogs, you might not see a shift because remember, all of the things held constant. If only the price is considered, you're just moving along the direct curve. But then if you have buns, so you have price of buns doesn't change, but the demand for buns decreases because people are buying less hot dogs. So the same goes for ski boots and skis. If the ski boot price goes up, moves along the curve from one point to the other, well, then skis are going to be inadvertently affected and their demand is going to go down, even if their price doesn't change. So complements will basically affect each other in that way. You also have another effect, which is known as the substitute effect. you have these two things that are purchased in place of one another. So if skis basically is going to like decrease in price, so let's say it goes from one point on the line to another, well, then it could affect snowboards because now less people are demanding snowboards because now you can buy skis. And then if skis goes up, well, now the demand for snowboards is going to go up because even if their price doesn't change, well, now skis are more expensive, so they're going to demand skis less and demand snowboards more. Same thing with hamburgers versus hot dogs. Hot dogs cost more, buy more hamburger. Hamburger costs more, buy more hot dogs. So basically, sometimes the price of a related good can inadvertently affect either a complement good or a substitute good without a change in that price ever occurring. So that is what causes a curve to shift. So you got to remember the important concepts. So always remember Ceteris Paribus, and always remember that a curve basically never stays where it is. And so that's it for this video.